Week 9 of the NFL season has arrived, which means we are already halfway through another year of football. Absolutely crazy stuff. Hopefully, we can continue the trend of some great games, because last week ended up being a pleasant surprise. We had everything from last-second Hail Marys to backup quarterbacks leading game-winning drives, and I managed to have a pretty decent record on the week, going 11-5. Let's see if I can continue that trend here in Week 9. Here's my breakdown, preview, and predictions of all the action. First and foremost, the Thursday night game will be between the Texans and the Jets. And the Jets, yeah, what was that? They lost to the Patriots. They're at the lowest of lows. This season has already been a disaster, and now they lose to one of the worst teams in the league, while statistically, by all metrics, beating them in like every aspect of that game. And yet somehow they still lost it. They are an absolute mess. Expectations were sky high, and the sky is literally falling right now. It's absolutely insane to watch this team, with all this talent, continue to fail with their execution. Aaron Rodgers has looked like a washed-up has-been, and you can tell the team just has the wrong attitude right now with all the losing that's going on. They had a better record with Zach Wilson at this point last season. I can't, in good faith, with a good, conscious mind, pick them to win a game against a relevant team like the Houston Texans. There's just no way against this Texans team, which has been rolling, who've continued to find ways to win games. You gotta go with the Texans. Bad teams find ways to lose, and the good ones always find ways to come out on top or make less mistakes, and that's where the Texans are at. CJ Stroud is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, and he will lead his team to a win. Anyway, moving on to Sunday in the first 1 p.m. slot, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons. This game is intriguing just because I feel like it's very losable for both sides. It's a tough one to judge. Atlanta love to let games like this slip up, and Dallas every once in a while like to surpass their low expectations that they've had this year. So I'm a bit lost as to what I think will happen in this matchup. I mean, at the end of that game against San Fran, it was a little bit in garbage time, I suppose, but Dallas did make a comeback and they made that game close. But for a while, they performed terribly. And again, kind of like with the Jets, I don't know with a good conscience if I can pick Dallas to be a relevant team that has been getting some significant wins against good teams like the Atlanta Falcons. They've had their ups and downs, like getting crushed by Seattle the other week just to play well against Tampa and win a close game there. But I don't know, man. The Falcons right now have seemed like the more consistent team. Their offense has looked a lot more competent. They have more weapons at their disposal. They can actually utilize a pretty solid running game. And Dak Prescott, man, it just hasn't been there for him. It seems like every single game against a good opponent, he doesn't play well for about 3 quarters or 2.5, then randomly turns it up in the second half when the game's already out of reach. I'm worried we're heading towards that territory again. I get the feeling this game will be close, but the Atlanta Falcons feel like the more trustworthy team to me, so I'm going to pick them. The Dallas Cowboys, they really bit me when I picked them against San Fran, and if they can't even beat an injury-riddled team, I don't know how they stand a chance against the Falcons. Then you have an AFC East battle between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Both of these teams continue to head in different directions. The AFC East I thought would be very competitive this year, but boy was I wrong about that. Buffalo is literally running away with it. They just got a statement win against the Seahawks, and the Dolphins, despite having Tua back, slipped up and lost a tough game to the Cardinals. I mean, even with Tua playing, they didn't do all that well against Buffalo, and I don't know if that continues here. I mean, at least Tua's kind of fresh outside of his head, I guess. I mean, physically, he's going to be good out there, probably won't be all that fatigued. That could play to their advantage in this one, but Buffalo right now are absolutely the better team by all metrics. The Dolphins season is basically lost at this point already, and I would trust the Bills to get this win. I think Josh Allen and those guys are going to light them up. Maybe it's a bit closer than the last time, but typically Buffalo have owned Miami, so I'm not going to go against them like I did earlier this year, so I'll be taking the Bills. Next up, The Cincinnati Bengals at home are playing the Vegas Raiders. You know, I gotta say, I'm a bit surprised with Vegas. I was pleasantly surprised to see them play a rather close game against the Chiefs, despite this team feeling like a dumpster fire on paper. It makes me feel a little more confident they could make this game against the Bengals somewhat interesting. But at this point, Cincy's backs are literally up against the wall. They let that game against Philly get away from them, and I doubt they're gonna let that happen again against a significantly worse Vegas team. Maybe T. Higgins can come back. You'll have to keep an eye on his status heading into this matchup. But right now, as Joe Burrow said, they've got to win like 7 of their next 9 to have any sort of chance of making the playoffs. And while they have been a letdown this year, this is the perfect bounce back opportunity against a significantly worse team compared to some of their other recent competition. Bengals should be winning this game. They have a bit more firepower on offense. Maybe it's a little uncomfortable at the beginning, but I think eventually they pull away and beat a Raiders team that feels pretty lost. And then you have the Chargers versus the Cleveland Browns. This is a very curious case. We saw a very different looking Browns team on Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens, as you'd expect with Deshaun Watson not being around. I mean, they even surpassed my expectations, not just by winning this game, but by Jameis Winston having a damn good matchup, despite not starting in like over a year as a QB. He dropped over 300 yards in that game, didn't even throw any picks. Obviously, there's nowhere to go but down, just knowing who Jameis Winston is. And against this Chargers defense, led by Harbaugh, that could be an issue. But I don't know, man. I kind of think the Browns are going to win this game. I feel like they still have something left to give. They just got a big win over the Ravens. Their offense has been in purgatory this whole year. It's been unlocked with Jameis Winston out there, and I think there's still more to be done. I think, in a way, this is an unfavorable matchup for the Chargers. If they're still playing against Deshaun, it would more so favor their type of style, where it's about that grit, about that defense, and winning a low-scoring game. But with Jameis Winston out there, eventually, even if he does make mistakes, he's going to make the most of some of those opportunities that the Chargers inevitably give him, because they don't score a lot of points themselves, and I think that could be the difference. I don't like the Chargers against any team that's capable of putting up a bunch of points, and with Jameis out there with that I don't care, I'm going to sling it attitude, I think that's a problem. I'm fairly confident the Browns are actually going to take it, especially because they're at home. There's still more work to be done. They can achieve a higher level with this offense as they get Nick Chubb more involved and pass it to Njoku more. I like where they're going with Jameis, so I'll take Cleveland. Then you have a somewhat interesting game between the Patriots and the Titans, 2 of the league's bottom feeders. As I mentioned before, the Patriots were able to get a big win against the Jets, despite by all metrics losing that game. Somehow they still won it, and with Drake May going down early with a concussion, they were able to get that W. Now, speaking of Drake May, you're going to have to keep a close eye on his status as we get closer to game time this Sunday. That could be a big difference, and that could actually be the reason the Titans end up winning this game if they're playing against Brissett, who is a significantly worse quarterback, based off of the small sample size that we've seen so far. Especially because Mason Rudolph, at least for like, a quarter and a half against Detroit, was keeping pace with them and slinging the ball with relative ease. The Patriots aren't very good, so there's a world where Rudolph could have a repeat performance, but with less mistakes because he is playing against the Pats. But in the end, I think whether it's Drake May or Jacoby Brissett, I'll be picking the Patriots to win this game. They're just the better team in my eyes, despite that Titans defense being kind of scary at times and maybe giving Jacoby Brissett some problems. It's just more likely to me that the Titans find a way to lose this game because that has been their entire personality this year, and I think the Patriots will use that momentum from that game against the Jets to get another win here. I think they'll be a lot more confident. It was a way to prove their coach wrong after he called them soft the other week, and I believe they used that to their advantage and get a close win over the Titans if Brissett's playing. If not, maybe somewhat more comfortable if Drake May plays. And then for the second time already this year, the Commanders are playing the Giants in a battle of the NFC East. And oh, Giants. It happened again. Another super winnable game, this time against Pittsburgh, who are really good, and you let it slip away from your grasp. With a lot of horrible penalties and Daniel Jones throwing the game away at the end, as he always seems to do. The Giants are a mess right now. Things continue to get worse. Deonte Banks got benched. things are only going to get worse as they keep losing. They're 2-6 now. Their season is over. They're going to start quitting on plays more and more, and it's not going to be like the first time they played against the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is a much better quarterback. He has come a long way since that early, week 2 or 3 game, whatever it was. He's become a better player, and he just got a bunch of good experience playing against a good Bears defense, so he'll feel good and ready for this matchup with the Giants, who are pretty scary with their pass rush as well. They're not going to get that death by field goal thing going again. They're going to find the end zone this time. And Daniel Jones, he's not. He hasn't found the end zone in like 3 games, and he's actually a significantly worse player at home than he is on the road. So I have all the confidence in the world that the Commanders outpace one of the worst teams in the league. As I say every week with the Giants, they're a bad team, and bad teams always find a way to lose games. Speaking of divisional games, the Carolina Panthers will be playing the New Orleans Saints again, and the last time, if that's any indicator, it won't be very pretty. Now, hopefully for the Panthers, Andy Dalton will be back. I mean, Bryce Young looked okay at times last week, but obviously Dalton's the more competent quarterback, and that would help against the Saints team that has been losing a ton as of late. However, if you're a Saints fan, you're probably feeling pretty good. The Panthers are terrible. You may even be able to win with a backup quarterback, but the Saints seem somewhat optimistic that Derek Carr could be returning for this matchup, and if that's the case, if he's ready to go, the Panthers stand no chance whatsoever. The Saints' season is on the line. They can't continue to lose, and this is a gimme game. This Panthers team can't beat anybody. They just lack the talent to keep up. So I'm going with the Saints for sure. They've owned these guys recently, and that surely is the case here yet again. Maybe it's a little closer if a backup QB plays, but if Derek Carr plays, then it's probably a blowout. And at the final 1 p.m. slot, the Baltimore Ravens are playing the Denver Broncos. So if the Ravens had beaten Cleveland last week, this is a game I'd be pretty scared for them with, as again, they do have those random games every year they tend to drop, but because they just had one against the Cleveland Browns, I doubt they're going to lose this game to the Broncos as well. There's a lot of steam that they need to get off their chest. They're going to play angry, and I think they're going to beat down this Broncos team, who has had the luxury of playing some bad teams as of late. This is going to be a wake-up call for a team that is very much surpassing their preseason expectations. Their defense is going to keep it close for a while, but I think Bo Nix is about to have a rough game. Baltimore, again, they're going to go out there and play super angry, and I think Lamar and Derrick Henry are going to have their way slowly but surely in this game. As the quarters go by, they're going to tire that team out with the run game, and holes are going to open up, and they win this game comfortably. I just don't see a world where the Ravens lose this one right after losing to Cleveland. Can't happen. No way. Give me Baltimore. Then starting off your 4 p.m. games, the Philadelphia Eagles at home are taking on the Jags, and I don't give the Jags much of a shot in this one. I mean, they just lost to Green Bay, another tough loss for those guys, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. The schedule has not been kind to them, and they're not making the most of those opportunities. It sucks because the Jags haven't played all that bad. In a lot of the games that they've lost, it's been really close games, like down to the final possession or two. But that's part of the problem. When you're a bad team, you find ways to lose, and that's what the Jags have done. And now they're playing a Philly team that has slowly but surely been ramping things up. They've looked better and better since that bye week, and this just feels like an unfavorable matchup to me. I saw how Josh Jacobs gashed that team last week, and now you're playing against Saquon and Jalen Hurts, who just ran it for like 3 touchdowns last week. This is a tough drawing for the Jags. Maybe again they find a way to BS their way to a close matchup, but I believe they find a way to lose this game yet again. Philly feel like the significantly better team with way more advantages, so I'll gladly take the Eagles in a blowout. But how about the Chicago Bears versus the Arizona Cardinals? This has the potential to be one of the best games of the week. The Bears have been a weird team. Sometimes they lay a goose egg like we saw in that Commanders game. They don't do anything offensively all day. But then all of a sudden in the next week, they play really, really well. That seems like the track we're headed on against a Cardinals defense that is suspect to say the least. Caleb versus Kyler Murray, I believe there will be fireworks in this one. The Cards have won their last 2 games. I doubted them in both of them. They proved me wrong both times with field goals to win the matchup. It's great how they're playing right now. They've been clutch. They haven't even always gotten Marvin Harrison Jr. involved. They've been spreading the ball around. Kyler Murray's been a problem as well when it comes to scrambling out of the pocket. Lots of big play potential from him. but I get the feeling the Bears put them in their place. We saw this matchup last year, and the Bears did very well defensively game planning for Kyler, and this Bears defense has gotten better since then. This will be a big challenge compared to the last few weeks, and I believe they will fall flat, and we will see this Bears team get a W. Then, on paper, this could actually be the best game of the week. The Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers in an NFC North showdown. This is a long-anticipated matchup between two of the NFC's powerhouses. Now, unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen with Jordan Love. He went down with that groin injury in the Jacksonville game, did not return. Luckily, it's not as bad as they initially thought, which is good. Maybe he can come back soon, possibly even for this game. But if they're without him, they really don't stand a chance against Detroit with how they're playing. But in the end, I think regardless of whether Love is playing or not, I'm sticking with the Lions to win this game. They're on the road, it's tough to play in Lambeau, but how could I go against this team right now? They have looked unstoppable. Jared Goff has looked like the undisputed MVP of the league since playing that game in Seattle. He has been damn near perfect. This Detroit offense has been explosive. Nobody seems to have an answer for them. Green Bay's D is really good, but I don't even know if they're ready for what Detroit's doing right now. There's no way in hell I can go against a team that looks this hot right now. You always got to go with the hot hand. So whether Love is playing or not, I'm picking the Lions. But how close it is will definitely depend on his status, so keep an eye on that. And finishing off the 4 p.m. slot, the Rams are taking on the Seahawks in a tough NFC West divisional battle. These two have played some really close games in the last couple of seasons. It always comes down to the wire, but for whatever reason, the Rams are usually the ones to find a way to win this game. And in a lot of those games, I pick Seattle, and I think I've learned my lesson enough at this point. I've gotten burned enough to know that the Rams own Geno for whatever the heck the reason. So I will be picking the Rams to win this game. I think right now they're getting the needed energy boost to keep up. It seemed like they might be abandoning ship and trading away players, but everyone came back healthy, just got a big win against the Vikings, and they're in the hunt right now in the NFC West. Everybody's like even record-wise right now. It is up for grabs, and this Rams team has a golden opportunity against a team they know very well and they've beaten many, many times. I think with the added weapons, with Puka back, with Cooper Kupp there, that they will overwhelm this Seattle defense. They've had trouble when it comes to those big weapons, and generally, they haven't played all that great against top-tier competition outside of the Atlanta Falcons. So I don't know if I can trust them to win this game, knowing that and the history as well. It's very winnable. I think they're going to come out a lot stronger after that horrible Buffalo game with all those execution issues, but I can't go against the Rams knowing the history, so I'll be picking them to win this game and get one step closer to being on top of the NFC West. And on Sunday night, the Colts are playing the Vikings. Why is this a primetime game? This is terrible. Regardless, though, I think no matter what happens, whether it's Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson, that I'm going to pick the Vikings to win this game. In the case that Anthony Richardson is playing, I mean, the guy just can't complete a pass to save his life. What did he start, like 2 of 10 in that game against the Texans? Against this Vikings defense that's so blitz heavy, that's great with disguising their coverages, he doesn't stand a freaking chance if he's playing out there. It'll be easy pickings for those guys. In the words of Shaq, literal barbecue chicken. Now, in the case that Joe Flacco plays, the game could be a lot more interesting. But the Vikings defense in general is overdue for a good performance after the last couple of weeks. They're overdue to have another one of those suffocating games, just knowing the tendencies we've seen from them this year. And Joe Flacco, I don't think, will be able to keep pace with a Vikings offense that just has a lot more going for it. Sam Darnold's been connecting with Justin Jefferson all year. That's going to be a problem. The run game is nice too. The Colts will be worn down one way or another, regardless of who is at QB. I like the Vikings here. And concluding Monday night, seeing as the Steelers and the 49ers are on a bye, the Chiefs are taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Chiefs have an opportunity to be halfway to perfection, to be 8-0 to start off their season. And they have a good opportunity against this Buccaneers team that is very banged up. Now, in credit of the Bucs, they rose up to that adversity and played somewhat well in that game against Atlanta. They kept it close despite being down Godwin and Evans. They'll be in the same boat this week most likely. I don't think Mike Evans is coming back until like week 10, they said, bare minimum. But they showed me they can change their identity on the fly. They relied more on their running backs. They got Otten involved, and it was great to see. I think that this offense could become a pain for the Chiefs to game plan if they feel like it's not easy to predict. It's no longer Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are down there somewhere, you know? You have to account for more players as they spread the ball around. However, with there being no Evans and Godwin, we saw Baker make some major mistakes in that Atlanta game, not being on the same page with his receivers, trying to do too much playing hero ball as well, and that won't fly against this Chiefs team, which has been lights out. Their defense has been really good yet again this year, and Mahomes hasn't played all that great this season. I think it's about time that he starts to ramp things up, and this is the perfect opportunity against a Tampa team that feels kind of broken on the surface, that slowly but surely could be falling out of the race in the NFC South. I like the Chiefs to remain perfect and get a nice win here, most likely by double digits. And that will do it for my preview and predictions for Week 9. Let me know who you think is going to win all these games and what your best bets are down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more NFL content every single week. Peace.